Thanks for coming back.
Of
Uh,
course.
yeah, it's been a while. I want to remind everybody, all of our listeners and watchers, we're here to talk about making business better. And I really believe that business can be better and it should be. So I like to bring people like Lane onto the podcast to help you increase your profit, your freedom, and your joy from your business. Because I feel like running a business should be joyful, even during hard times. You know, we should be able to find joy from our businesses, and certainly profit and good feelings. So one of the things that people struggle with is marketing a lot, especially with online marketing, because it requires skill. And so people wonder, should they do it in-house themselves? Should they have like a receptionist or an admin assistant do it? Um, or should they outsource to an agency? What was the other option we talked about?
Talked about, DIY versus in-house team people or out-of-house vendors, agencies, contractors, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is really important because obviously in a lot of cases, people are trying to sell more online nowadays, right? Like
Mhm.
it's really relevant today. It's always relevant. I mean, from the beginning of business, I'm sure they've had this problem. But for me, I've always flip-flopped back and forth. Outsource marketing, then I bring it back in-house and get my in-house person trained, and then I outsource it again, and then I decide that I found the training that will really help my person, or I try to get you to train my person, or the social media examiner has like a society that we paid for the year, and I was convinced because it was written to me. It was like, always be in the know, like know all the new online marketing things, like be the expert in the room. I'm like, perfect. And then it's
That's
like
good copywriting. They got you.
perfect copywriting, and none of us have watched any of it. And it's like, it's not in the calendar, so it's not happening. So we're still, if we don't know something like what just happened there with Facebook going live, like we're still Googling stuff. So it would be really nice to have it outsourced, but then there's people who don't maybe have a budget for that. So I'm I'm really eager to hear what you think about all the different options here. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, mostly because I did not understand your description?
Can you read it for everyone?
Do I have to? I knew you were going to make me do this. It clearly says their guest introduces himself on the podcast on the
Oh.
agenda there. Did you notice
Oh.
I changed that?
Did you change it? You're supposed to introduce
Because
me.
as I read it to Mindy, I was like, what? Fine, I'll read it.
No,
I'm
that's okay.
confident.
Kelli-Rae told me to put in a blurb about who I am. So I said Lane is a marketer, entrepreneur, dad, husband, and former youngest person in the world. I looked this up, for about 1/4 of a second, because there's a baby, like 4 babies born a second. So everyone was the former youngest person in the world for 1/4 of a second. I think that's right.
That's what you Google. You did that just that's I'm impressed.
That's the
Nobody's
biggest
ever
thing I've
funny in
ever
their
accomplished.
intros. Thanks for lightening it up. I just watched Thanks for lightening it up. It's awesome. Okay, cool. Let's get into this. So,
also, like, are we still allowed to drink on this podcast?
you know, I was actually craving alcohol before I got on here. I'm like, why do I need a drink? And then I'm like, oh yeah, because Lane and I always used to drink on the podcast. Oh, is that a beer?
Yeah.
We have your favorite scotch downstairs here because my partner likes it, but unfortunately that stuff makes me want to puke when I smell it, so I won't be having a drink. But cheers, Lane. It's good to have you back. I'm going to be drinking.
Let's make this the most fun podcast.
Yes, people need fun. Thank you. Okay, so tell me why this is important right now to you.
Oh, right now especially. Well, to me, I didn't come on here because I want to pitch our business. I don't want it to come across as like this is why you should hire us, or
everyone who listens to me knows I would never do that.
Yeah. So this is not about why we should hire Linen Road or what we do that's unique at all. But it does come from my experience. Why it's important right now is because when budgets are tight and when you're making cuts, or you're auditing, or you're looking through your budgets and making sure that every dollar is being spent wisely, that's more and more important. Means that you've got to have someone helping you decide how to spend that money on marketing, especially. So actually, just on LinkedIn, someone was sharing today, over the past couple of years, people are really pushing towards the branding, which is exciting for me. People want to build brands, and that's where they're focusing their marketing. And if you kind of do these big studies where they'll pull 1,000 companies and say, where do you plan to allocate your marketing budget next year? And people are really like, yep, I'm going to do this much. I'm going to spend more on branding, less on this, all those kind of metrics. I just saw one today that's saying for 2021, it's kind of less on most things, and where it's more is performance. Like that's the most valuable thing, is we need performance. It's not on building a big brand or fun relationship, which is what I love doing, but it's about performance. So that's why this is more important than ever, is if you're scrutinizing your budget, you need to know what's happening with your marketing dollars and not winging it. And that doesn't mean you have to go out of house. That's not the pitch at all, but it's making an intentional decision about how you're going about it.
So you are going to be thorough and talk about all the options, right?
We will, all of the options for different stages of business.
Yeah, and I need to give you a compliment because when I first met you and we first started doing the podcast, I remember you being like, oh, I'm learning from you. You're the business expert. But I always told you, well, you've built something pretty special here, and then after you sold and now that you're the CEO, I'm constantly impressed with your increasing business prowess. So,
well, thanks.
Yeah,
that's what I'm less and less of a marketer and more of just running a business, which is
it's amazing.
But it's been a fun year. It's been I do feel like I've learned a lot over the last 8-10 months. So I
feel like scaling up shows up a lot in your.
Oh, immensely. It's the Bible of our business. Scaling up is it's enormous to us.
Yeah, that's a tough feat for a business to fully take that on. So that's amazing. So good for you. Just wanted to give you that compliment. So I feel like excited to learn from you on this topic because, like I told you, I've struggled with this over the last 6.5 years. So let's talk about it.
Okay. So let's talk about the different types of business. So my idea of whether you do it yourself or you have an internal person or 2 or 6, or you use an agency or vendor contractor, whatever, it changes a lot based on, I guess, partly who you are, but mostly like the stage of business you're in. And you go from like startup, micro business to small business, small, medium business, and then to like the big brand enterprise. And we've worked with all levels, from the smallest of the micro business to the biggest, not the biggest, some pretty large enterprise brands, global brands. And so we've kind of done the whole scale and learned a lot about how someone like us, an agency, fits into those different types of businesses, and then also where we don't fit into those businesses. So starting with the lowest, we got the micro businesses, which to me is kind of like the mom and pop shops. You've got up to maybe 5 to 10 employees as your max, and that's kind of that micro business to me. And you're probably doing, say, well, if you have 5 employees, you're probably already doing $500,000 a year in revenue or something like that. So if you're under the $1 million, I would say you're basically a micro business. And at that stage, the owner or the manager or whatever role that is usually the CMO. So every business has a CMO. Every business has a CFO. Everyone has a CEO, COO. I know, like you've read the E-Myth, and that's a big thing that's all about, is like you have all these roles in your business, even if you're a one-person business. So every business has a CMO, chief marketing officer. So someone's in charge of your marketing, no matter what. So at the moment, that's a hat that the business owner probably wears as a micro business. And at that level,
a lot of those people, if they're older and they have young employees, I find that they let those younger employees do it, which I find incredibly ineffective sometimes, because it's quite shocking to me. Like, a lot of the younger people, they have never learned to write professionally, as in with proper grammar and punctuation and actual words, rather than acronyms, or and so if it's supposed to be like a high-end professional business and you've got a 17-year-old kid running your social media and you're kind of like hands off, that's one big problem I wanted to point out, because a lot of business owners are like, well, I don't know that stuff, you're young, you handle it. So that is not something that should be happening, in my opinion.
Yeah, so I agree that often there is the assistant, the receptionist, the whoever's handy with media is doing the marketing, but I would still in most cases disagree that the owner is still the CMO. Like the CMO is like the person who
Giving
decides
direction.
what should get done. So
I
you're
hope
still
so.
saying like, hey,
Yeah.
can you be active on social media for us? So that's still a CMO role, even though they're like, hey, receptionist, can you do this for us? So in my mind,
but
someone's in charge of the marketing. That's the CMO piece. And then there's someone else doing the marketing. Maybe it's the same person doing the marketing, but sometimes, yes, who's the person that could do some of this stuff for us?
and
But
if
most
they're
is like,
actually sorry, if they're
no,
actually being a CMO, they would be giving them like strategy and
sure,
goals and direction. But what
rather than,
I'm
yeah,
saying, yeah, I'm seeing a lack of that. I'm just seeing a sort of like, oh well, we have to do social media so this young kid can do it, and like it's so detached from who the brand is, who the owner is, what the vision was. So that's something you don't want to do if you're doing it in-house.
yeah, yeah. And so sometimes there's a lack of a lot of direction. That doesn't mean that you're not the CMO or you don't have a CMO. It just means you're a really bad CMO. You still have one. Like, it's someone's job to market this business. You might be really bad at it, but you are still the CMO, and you might be saying, hey, you seem to be good at Twitter. Can you do that for us? Or I know that you could put a website together on GoDaddy. Can you do this? But you're still, the CMO is kind of the one saying, hey, this is important. Is there someone around here that knows how to do this? So at that micro business, often the owner is their own CMO. You do as much as you possibly can yourself, or you lean into extra skills that people on your team have. If you have someone who's a hobbyist photographer on the side, you're probably asking them to take your photos for you. If you have someone who loves spending their time on Instagram on every break you give them, then maybe you're asking them to do your social media, whatever it is. But you're doing as much as you can yourself, or your team. And that's honestly the way it should be. You are only hiring out the tasks you just absolutely can't do. So if you're like, hey, we need a website, and the alternative is we could hobble something together ourselves and it looks really, really amateur, maybe you're as your own CMO, you're kind of deciding, yeah, that's important, we need to do that. So that's a CMO decision. And then you're finding a vendor, finding a contractor, finding someone to build it for you. But other than that, you're doing everything in-house. And honestly, it should be. So we've got way too many micro businesses asking people to run their social media for them, asking to set up elaborate campaigns, like just trying to do too much. And at that level, it's going to be really hard to get a positive ROI, because for that work to be done well, it's going to cost money, but your business just isn't at a scale where you're going to get a big enough return on it. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the best marketing campaign in the world. If your business isn't big enough, you can't get a good ROI. Like, I could make the best ad, put it on during the Super Bowl, but if your business is a lemonade stand, you're not going to get an ROI. Like, it has to be big enough that it supports what good marketing costs. So that's where, I mean, that we run our social media sessions, like the social sessions, and we try and help people to do their own social media better. And we're doing more and more of that, of just like setting people up, giving them a 2-hour, here's some tips, here's best practices. And some of the best accounts of our clients are some of those small businesses that are running it themselves. They do a fantastic job. It should be. You're authentic, you're behind the scenes. We can't run over town and take this quick photo because something happens that should go on social. Like, this is very authentic, raw, awesome social. So things like that, do it in-house. So I'm a big advocate of, you are still your own CMO, and you need to do as much as you possibly can yourself, and you're only hiring out stuff that really does need to be done and that you absolutely can't do. Other than that, you're small, you have to wear a lot of hats. Go learn how to do this stuff.
The over delegating on this is a bad thing. Like, especially if you haven't even done your own marketing plan, and like if you don't even, yeah, I agree. Okay, yeah, and I love that about you too. It's so obvious that you're not here to sell things. Would you recommend somebody other than your social sessions too for people, like Social Media Examiner?
Yeah, so you already mentioned that one, right?
Yeah.
I don't know what their paid thing is to get access to the resources, but I mean, there's no lack of resources out there for things like that. But Social Media Examiner knows what's up. They're a good one to follow.
Yeah.
If you're really into the digital marketing type stuff, there's a company just called Digital Marketer. They have tons of training, checklists of best practices for your landing page, or how to write better emails or sales copy, or and they're very conversion oriented, like more social media examiners, kind of like how to run a good social account. Digital marketers definitely more conversion oriented. If you're going to send your Black Friday email campaign, stuff like that, like they'll help you write one that's actually going to get the click and land on a landing page and get a sale. But that digital marketer is another one that's definitely worth paying attention to if that's.
So we're talking training for in-house marketing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
But digital. Okay, got it.
Okay, so that's the micro business.
Okay.
SMBs, so small to medium business. This is a huge range. Someone doing 100 million to, let's say, 40 million a year is, I'd say, top end of medium business. Is that where, I don't know what, you went to school for this stuff. I don't have a formal education in business.
I hate the terms because there are a couple different definitions, like employee-wise, revenue-wise, but I've found that people do not like being called like a small business or a micro business. So I just say business owner, and I differentiate business owner from publicly traded business. So that's my small medium business.
If you identify as a business owner, you are probably micro,
small to medium,
SMB, because no one like
you are. Yeah.
Jeff Bezos doesn't call himself a business owner.
No, exactly, right? Exactly. Yeah. Now that we've offended anyone who's watching, we're so sorry.
No, I think actually this helps, is that people are like, oh, under $1 million is a micro business. So when you call them a small business, you're like, no, small is like up to 40 million.
Small, yeah.
Well, medium is up to 40 million a year. Like, we're not saying you're just I don't know, a tiny little corner shop. At the SMB level, I would strongly advise that you need a CMO that kind of knows what you're doing. So if you are someone who is marketing oriented, then you can continue to be your own CMO as a business owner if you get that stuff. Like, there's lots of businesses run by people who have a strong marketing background, have a good marketing mind, so they can continue to be their own CMO. But you do, if it's not you, you do need someone there who's kind of like your head of marketing. I really believe that needs to come in early. There's kind of like that magic suite of people that you need at the top of a business, like your CEO, your COO, your CFO, and your CMO. Like, to me, those 4 roles need to be there once you start hitting some amount of scale. And just to be clear, like, those can be part-time roles. Like, I am CEO, but probably only with like 60% of my time. I'm still also the marketing doer with the other 40% of my time. My COO, she's still doing the marketing and being a client advisor and a project manager with, 40% of her time. So those are, we all wear multiple hats. So.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. People need to get that over and over again, because sometimes I think people tune out when they hear all the different roles, and it's like, no, when you draw an org chart, sometimes your name is in 7 of the holes until we grow. Yeah. But what about getting from a micro business to a small medium business? So 2 questions. What about getting from there to the next level? And then second, what did you mean, or how do you define, like, if you're a good marketer, if you've got good marketing skill, like, how do they know that they're hitting their goals, they're growing?
I'd say if the thing that people, I think, are pretty familiar with where their talents are. So if, when you look at your business, the thing that you get excited about or that you're thinking about at night is, how do we market to more people, or how do we reach new people? Hey, here would be an interesting campaign. Like, you're a marketing person. If you're spending your time looking over your books and doing cash flow analysis, you can continue to probably be your own CFO for quite a while. If you're the person creating processes and employee manuals, then you can be your own COO for quite a while. So, I mean, I was all of those roles for the first couple of years of mine. Now I have myself as a CEO, I have a COO, and then we kind of have, through our ownership group, we have like a fractional CFO. So we have those roles, and I'm very grateful for them, because I know that those are roles that I shouldn't have. They got me to a certain stage, but to go beyond there, I should be the one doing those things.
Okay, now getting from micro to small. How do they do that if they can only use their own resources?
I don't think that's a challenge. I mean, if you have a good product market fit and you're spending that time learning how to do this stuff yourself a bit, because you need to. I mean, even if you own, even if you own and you hire a CMO, how do you know how to hire a CMO if you don't know anything about marketing? Like, you need to know this stuff. If you own a business, you need, like, to my reluctance, I've gone through all sorts of financial training so that I can talk at a high level with my CFO about all the different types of financial statements. Like, you can't just, oh, well, I've got my person for that. If you own it or you're running it, you need to know this stuff. So that's how you get from micro to small to medium, is that you're going to learn it well enough to get you there, and you will soon realize, yeah, I've about hit my max of where I can take this, and I'm going to need someone else. And it happens about then.
And I just want people to know too, like, don't sign off if you're like, oh, I'm not big enough, or I'm self-employed, or I've only got 2 employees. Like, there is so much free information just between like our websites, Social Media Examiner, and I don't know about digital marketer being free stuff, but there is so much free stuff on the internet that you can teach yourself with, and just so many great books. Maybe we can get you to recommend your favorite book to teach yourself about marketing at the end of this.
Okay, we'll do that at the end.
Spot. Yeah, so please stay with us. This does pertain to you, I promise.
Okay, so micro, you're still doing everything in-house, only outsourcing what you absolutely can't do to an agency, contractor, vendor, whatever. So SMBs, you need a CMO. So that can be in-house as a part-time role at more of the small level if you have it. But you're at that level where you need more specialized people with a higher skill level. Like, you can't just have one person cobbling together your website, also trying to figure out how to track things properly in analytics, also running your social media and making videos for you, also running your email campaigns, also being strategic and coming up with your annual strategies. Like, it's just too much. You start needing people who have specializations within marketing. Like, I definitely count myself as a generalist in marketing. Like, I know I can do a pretty good job at a lot of things, and I'm not a specialist in very many of them at all. And that was what got us started, was that I could do a lot of things pretty well. But at this point, now that I have this team under me, I am not the best at anything we do anymore. Like, if we need video photo work, Zach can do it way better than I ever could. If we need websites built, Lindsay can do it way better than I ever could. Like, we have people who are specialists in each thing, because when you're a generalist, it'll only take you so far. And even me, who I pride myself on being like a pretty broad generalist, I literally don't know how to use Photoshop. Like, there's still limits of what I can do. I'd still be in Canva doing stuff if it was on me. Yeah. So you need these specialists, because
Canva's not good.
It is good, just not at a like high professional level. You're gonna have limits. Yeah. No, we're enterprise partners with Canva, and we sign lots of our clients up with it. If they need to do their own stuff, we'll give you the tools and show you how to do it yourself.
Did that trend change back then? Because I thought for a while it was like the more homemade it looked, the more engaging it was.
Social, yeah. But Canva, I mean, it could be banners for your website, could be the email newsletter, could be a poster you got to put outside your store. I mean, it designs everything. So
yeah, I'd be terrible at that. Okay.
No, social, I agree. Like, authentic and just using the tools on your phone is a great way to do things as a small business, because that authenticity is worth a lot. So you start needing those specialized people. So the problem is, let's say you're like, yeah, we need a team of specialists. Most businesses, you probably need that you definitely need that CMO person or a marketing director person. You need that person at the top that drives the strategy or manages the team. You're going to need a web developer type person to build a website, possibly. You're going to need a graphic designer, almost definitely. You're going to need a copywriter. You need an ad buyer, which means running Google ads, Facebook ads, LinkedIn, even buying radio ads, maybe doing everything else that is ad related. You are going to need probably a community manager or content manager if you're doing social or doing blogs. Like, there's just all of these roles. So if we take those, 6 different roles, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to make my department. I mean, we're talking about like a $200,000 or $300,000 a year investment to build out your marketing team. So that's where it's so prohibitive. And so people start thinking, well, maybe let's just get one generalist, but then you're just going to get kind of like mediocre quality of all of those things. So that's what I would suggest, is that's where you use a true all-in-one agency because you can get a fraction of each of those people. So instead of getting 6 full-time people, get 1/8 of 6 specialists for the same price of 1 generalist.
Yeah. And I just wanted to make one note because somebody just popped into my mind who's an in-house, well-trained marketer who's constantly reading, constantly training online. And I think they're doing probably the best job that I've ever seen as an in-house marketer at doing almost all 6 of those things. But what we're speaking about is like the average.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're not saying that nobody can pull it off, because some people are crazy and they study every hour that they're not working and they do an amazing job. But yeah, mostly it's impossible.
Yeah, it's not that it's not possible at all, but it's like, say, like whatever your annual budget is. So saying you have, if you have $60,000 a year you can put into marketing, then you can hire 1 person in-house and have them do all your marketing.
Or what if they suck? You know, like and hiring is so hard. And I was also going to ask you about like the talent pool. Like, as far as I know, I don't think I've read anything since COVID started about like the lack of tech and online marketing talent. Because I used to read about it all the time. It's like, how on earth are you supposed to find that amazing IT person for your company? Because it's like the least, like, we need those people so bad. But also online marketers, I felt that way about, like, but what's the supply like of those people, do you think, to hire in-house?
Yeah, not the high level specialists, because it's hard for them to stay busy doing that one high level thing in a small to medium business. Like, they're probably also stocking the shelf for you, and that's not a good use of someone's marketing degree.
Yeah.
So that's where I would really advise using an agency and kind of having a fractional or like an out of house marketing team. And that's what we have really built our business around, is trying to feel as much like an in-house team as possible. So having that commitment to, like, we are going to learn your business, your product, your audience, everything as well as you do, so that we can do this work. And you're not like, man, that does not sound like us. No, you do not know how to talk about heavy equipment engines. Like, you need to know this stuff in and out so that you can actually competently do the job. So be careful in finding that. But if you could compare $50,000 budget of having 1 person in-house who's a generalist versus using that as an agency and getting a fraction of a bunch of specialists, you're probably going to get better results from that fractional model. And then same with that CMO. So if you've got someone who's, if you're not the marketing oriented person and you do need to get a higher level CMO, getting a fractional CMO, because you don't want to have to pay the whatever 70, 80, $120,000 salary of a CMO for your company when you're making $2 million a year. But if you can get a fraction of a CMO, same quality, they don't need to be spending 40 hours a week strategizing marketing for your business anyways. Hire someone who can give you 6 hours a week of their time, and getting a fractional CMO.
And how do you make sure that you guys are on brand? Because that was always the thing for me that I worried about. And I think, I mean, to some extent, I created it because you get what you expect. But like, how do you hire out someone like your company and they actually be able to begin to speak like you? They embody your brand. They achieve your strategic objectives. Like, you must have some process for really getting to know that.
Yeah, so it's our promise first off, like even before they become a client, that's our promise in the proposal process, is we promise to get to know your business, as well as you do, as close as we possibly can, so that we can talk just like you. Early days when there's actually things going out into the public, happy to have an approval process to make sure that, hey, like, put your eyes across this before that goes public. But hopefully that doesn't last more than a couple of weeks, and at most a month. And by the end of that, we should be sounding like you, looking, and all that should be in place. But anyway, as far as the process of that, we've just continually put a lot and more work into this to make sure that we can deliver that. And so we would spend a half day at the beginning of that relationship in that person's business. So there's no like Zoom call type stuff. I mean, COVID changes things, but as far as when it's possible, we want to spend half a day in your business. I want to experience it as a customer, as if I'm a team member, onboard me as if I'm a new employee. I want to be in the business, get to know it. I want freedom to be able to ask every question that pops in my mind, to you, to other employees that you have, just completely saturate myself in that business. For the last about hour of that, I want to bring in my team, like everyone, that whole out of house department. I want them in there too for an hour, get to know your business. So the graphic designer, the copywriter, the ad buyer, the videographer, everyone's there also getting to know that so that it comes out when they're doing their work. So we have that commitment. And then just the way that we even just set up our shared drives, we'd give you access. It feels like a folder in your system. We have access to all the same files. There's no, hey, can I get this from you? It's just like we're an in-house team. It's there for whatever you want. We set up a team chart. So it's like, hey, here's me. I'm your fractional CMO. Here's this person. They're your graphic designer. Here's this person. That's your videographer. Like, you get to know them as your team, not just it comes through me and then magically out of the black box, here's your video. Like, we want you to feel like we're your team. So there is a lot of process around how do we achieve that, where people feel like they actually have hired, 7 new employees for the price of one. And they really do feel like we are their team. But there's been a lot of intentional design around making sure it feels that way.
That reminds me of my business assessment. Like, I think so many people, when they actually have to go through that, they actually have to create some of that. Like, they're like, oh, well, we don't have that, or we don't know that, so even going through that process is going to make them better marketers, more clear on their brand.
Yeah.
And like, some people don't have marketing goals.
Yeah. And that's when you get a proper, CMO or a fractional CMO, that's part of it is annually, whenever your fiscal year is, you should be setting what's your budget, what's your budget line for marketing. Mm-hmm. And that's what your CMO is going to use to say, okay, this is what we're going to do over the course of this year. We need to rebuild your website. We maybe want to do a big push on like a multimedia across every type of media we can buy in March, because seasonally that's what makes sense. Or just like thinking of an entire year at once and planning it out. Here's the things that'll happen week by week, month by month. Here's the things that's once a year. Here's how we would use your whatever, $40,000 a year, $100,000 a year, whatever it is. Here's how we recommend using it. And that's what a CMO needs. They need to see inside your business, what's the budget line for marketing, what's coming up, what's your challenges, what's your goals, and we can help lay that out.
What about expected ROI? Because that's always something that I like. For me as a coach or consultant, a lot of times people will be like, well, what if we don't make more money? I'm like, oh, you're going to make way more money than you pay me, because I'm picky about who I take on. And I know that for sure. But for you guys, like, are you able to promise that to people? Like, if you let us do our job, we can provide whatever. Like, do you find that you can pick actual numbers, like revenue numbers or return on investment or number of leads? I guess you can't control the sales conversion process. So,
yeah, there's a lot of things outside of that, a lot of things that are outside of our control. So often not. I mean, we'll definitely set targets based on your business. So we're going to say, yeah, we're going to increase your website visitors by this. I want to get you this many leads. We can set targets around whatever your business is, whatever is most relevant to you. There's lots of businesses where actually the most important activity are things that aren't really going to have a measurable result from it. Like, if we are just going to, I don't know, if you're going to make a new logo because it feels dated and it came out of the 70s and you just don't feel like a modern company anymore, so we need to do a whole rebranding, I can't attribute an ROI to that, but it's important. That looking modern, giving the right kind of feel. So that's where we could do net promoter score, like an NPS thing, based on, well, let's increase that. Like, how likely are people to recommend us? We can do increasing your average review. There's so many things based on what's important. What do we want to set the targets for the year? So in that annual plan, definitely there's targets. Here's the main, couple things that we're shooting for. Here's some other secondary, like dashboard things we kind of will also keep our eye on, but it'd be tailored to whatever the business is, because people have different targets and different things that are important for their success.
Sorry, I keep moving around. Like my puppy, that's what I feel like right now, is like he cannot sit still, but I have like this wicked sciatic pain right now, and it's like,
Oh no.
oh my God, I want to shut off my camera and just lay down.
Just have someone walk all over your back. Does that help?
No. And Tim also bought me this like massage gun, which, oh, like I hurt for days. It doesn't, I do not recommend. Probably not for the particular nerve and disc problem that I have, but maybe for others. Okay, squirrel. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
Next level.
Okay, so that's the world we live in, is SMBs, which are either usually overlooked by the great marketing companies, because great marketing companies want the whales. They want the enterprise clients who have enormous budgets, and they want to do campaigns for Toyota and Coca-Cola and IBM. So great marketing is often out of reach for SMBs. So that's where we've come to live, is offering that world-class marketing for SMBs at an affordable rate, doing the performance stuff, like what's most important for your business, all killer, no filler. And that's the world we live in. So our job is to work ourselves out of a job and make you too big. We need to make you enterprise level, where you're doing 50 million a year. And at that point, you need a full-time CMO, a talented person that's going to cost money, but someone who can actually head the marketing and has all of their time to give you. And you need a full-time team. That's 6-person, 5-person team minimum, because you need all of those various talents. Now you have the 300, 400, $500,000 that you can spend on building out that team. And at that point, if you're getting 40 hours a week of 6 of my people, it's going to cost a hell of a lot more than 40 hours a week of your own in-house people.
They've graduated.
So when you're there, build your team in-house, 100%.
Yes, I agree. The number I found, which looks like a legit source, actually says, as of December 2017, in Canada, 97.9% were small businesses.
Yeah, no, it's an enormous amount. Yeah,
and you're right. It's so funny. All the bigger firms, or I don't know that I'd call them bigger, but
the bigger,
going after
the high class ones, that's what they're going for. They're going for the whales.
Yeah.
And then the smaller firms who are usually because they don't have the talent to go after that kind of a client. So and so they're available to you because they're not great at what they do. So we've worked in the full spectrum. We've had the enterprise clients, and we recently fired our last one because I don't want to do that kind of work anymore. So you need the full-time CMO. You would need a full-time team. In-house is more affordable than getting an agency to be that full-time team. Just hire in-house. But then there is still a role for vendors, contractors, or like kind of the specialist boutique agencies, because Toyota doesn't make their own TV ads with their own in-house team necessarily, or any of these brands. They're still specialist agencies. So that's where, that was our contract that we recently got out of our contract with PokerStars. We were that specialist agency where we know the poker industry and we are great at social media. So we kind of played that specialist role of, hey, we need an agency who just does poker social media for us. And so, you go to those specialist agencies when you're the enterprise level. No enterprise business is looking for an all-in-one, all-purpose agency, because you can hire that in-house. At that stage, you're going for who knows how to work with athlete influencers. Let's find the agency who just does athlete influencers. Okay, let's give them some money and do something huge. Like, that's where you go to the really, really specialist. And that was the world where we had a choice. Are we going to be the all-in-one, work with SMBs, or are we going to specialize and go for enterprise? So
I'm happy with your decision.
Identify with those SMBs. I want to help the 97%, the backbone of our.
Well, seriously, yeah. And you only work locally or with close to Lethbridge, or are you doing virtual?
We do some virtual. I very much value, and our clients very much value, being able to sit across the table from each other, them being able to walk through our door and meet our team. That is very valuable. But there's some people who like virtual, and so I just signed a new client yesterday from Saskatoon, so I probably won't meet them in person. anytime soon, I
Probably
guess.
won't meet anyone in person next 3
Well,
weeks, right?
that's true. But yeah, maybe like over the course of an entire year working together, maybe I'll make my way out to Saskatoon and say hi and see their business in real life. But yeah, we'll do stuff from out of town. And yeah, there's lots of growth goals for that expanding well beyond Lethbridge. So
cool. Very cool. Awesome. Okay.
so that's the 3 levels: micro,
Yeah.
SMB, enterprise. So to recap, the DIY versus in-house versus out of house, I think micro, DIY it, go out of house for just the things you really, really can't, but you need to actually like really try to do this stuff yourself and do the
train, train. Don't just wing it. Learn. Yeah.
And then SMB, if you have a great marketing person, then maybe they can kind of have the part-time CMO role. If not, get a fractional CMO. Maybe go for the one generalist. If you don't need to do high level marketing, it's not that competitive. Maybe you can have one generalist who can do most of the things. But if you're really, really trying to go somewhere and you're trying to explode, you need some specialist talent. So go to an agency where they can be your out of house department and they can do everything that you need, and also maybe provide that CMO. So you're not just going to them saying, hey, do this thing for me. You go to them and they are the one who talk to you and decide what they should be doing for you. So enterprise, do it everything in house, other than like special campaigns or special little activities that generalists can't do, like I don't know, like we said, the athlete influencer agency or something like that. So there's going to be some specialist things for projects and campaigns that you might go out of house for, but other than that, it's all in-house. So that's, at our level, like our size of agency, because we're like 7 people right now, a lot of what looks like our competitors are mostly just like service providers. Like you go to them and say, I need a video, I need a website built, I need whatever, and they just do the thing you've gone there to buy. And so that's why you'll see on websites there's price lists or lists of services or whatever, because you just say this is what I need, and then they do that for you. And so I would look for someone who doesn't just take orders from you if you're not a CMO, but is saying, let me be the advisor that helps you decide what to do. So if you come to us and say, we need a video built, we'll say, but why? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah.
What's the point? And then we come around to a different solution and say, you know what, the most effective thing is actually this instead. And so you need that advisor, because whether you like it or not, the owner is usually your own CMO, and you might not be equipped for the job. Let someone else do it.
Yeah, or have time. I think I think that for a lot of people, they're just so overwhelmed, or they're like kind of head in the sand about, well, financials, I'd say, is the number one thing people head in the sand about in business. But marketing too, I think a lot of people are just so overwhelmed by it, and it's just so much. They don't really get into it. So is there like do you have any sort of template or free resource or anything that kind of gives people an idea of even like a marketing plan template or like a questionnaire, so that they can like become aware of, whoa, I need all these things in order to hit these goals, or like even come up with goals? Like, where can people start if this sounds like, whoa, too much for me?
Give me a second. I did make one once that I think I shared on this podcast.
I think you did. And I think a lot of people
find the link.
Awesome. Sorry. Thanks. That might take a while. I'm just going to go check if anybody's asking questions.
Sure.
Oh, yes. Okay. Preston said, timing is everything. And he said, thank you for all of the valuable info. I need to run. Have a good night.
Cool.
And Chris Brown said, thanks, Kelli-Rae and Lane. He actually fully spelled out our first and last name. Thank you, Chris Brown.
Thanks.
Great insight. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bit.ly, so bit.ly, bit.ly. I'm just going to test the link before I say it.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to put it on here for you. Bit.ly. Why don't you just post it in the comments?
bit.ly/marketing outline.
Okay. bit.ly/ marketing outline.
Front slash, but yeah, same thing.
That's this way, right? The front slash, sorry.
Yeah, bit.ly/marketing outline. I did this a while ago. It's just a very quick and it's basically just a table of contents of what would go into a strategic marketing plan. I think ours, we've even, tweaked a little bit here and there, but basically the bones of it are there. And those are all the things that I would expect to see in a strategic marketing plan. So
thank you for sharing that. That's awesome.
Word doc. There's not much there. It's one page, but at least that's like, hey, we should probably have something detailed laid out for all of those different things.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And actually, I'm just going to tag you in this video and you can go post it because I don't want to screw it up.
Okay.
I can't tag you for some reason today. So if you just go to my page and put it in the comments, that would be awesome.
Drop it in the comments.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So unfortunately, I realized that right when you started talking about micro businesses that I wasn't recording, so I hit record then. So if there's anything from the beginning that we missed on the podcast that you want to add now.
That I missed?
Yeah, well, I remember you said your background was that you were once the youngest person in the world for a quarter of a second, so people missed out on that. I also heard you crack a beer earlier, so that was fun. And I just wanted to make today fun because the update, you know what, not as bad as people were thinking, I think. So let's just follow the rules and hopefully this will help us enough. And if you are a business that's affected by it, reach out, guys. Lane's developed a great community there, and we've got one too. If you want to brainstorm or anything, like, let's get creative. We can handle this. We can do this.
Yeah. Do we do the quick tips thing still? Is that what happens?
Yeah, we do. We do. Okay. You have one, right?
Oh, do I start? Okay, yeah. Well, first you asked through this, in the middle of this, about book recommendations.
Yeah.
I would imagine just about anything by Seth Godin's probably pretty good. But if you read Purple Cow, I think it's such a short, easy, it's a small book. It's so easy to read, but just as like an overall, just a philosophy to have in marketing, I think it makes so much sense. It's like, you're not going to get anywhere by doing what everyone else does. Like, I mean, that's just should be obvious, but I can see from how people are doing marketing that it's not.
Yeah, because they look around and they do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
or Blue Ocean.
I will also subscribe to this tool that just spams my Facebook page. But it's like, if that's what everyone's doing, like, how is that? Anyways, do something different is basically the cliff notes of that. The other one I like is Talk Triggers. I don't know. I just like, again, it's not about like run Google ads, do Facebook. Like, it's not about the technical like science of marketing. It's just about what can you do that makes people talk about your business, because nothing ever beats word of mouth. If you can do something that sends people talking to their friends and family and colleagues as they go about their days, that is an incredibly powerful thing you can do for your business. So if you read Talk Triggers, it tells you all about how to design something for your business that will make people talk about you.
And is that the one where the mechanic repair shop picked up vehicles, cleaned them while they had them, and then left like that particular brand of root beer on the front seat when they dropped it back off? Was that in Talk Triggers?
I don't think that sounds
I feel
familiar.
like it was because I remember I sent that book to like an auto repair shop that I was working with.
Yeah, it's by Jay Bear, who's a very talented person, so you could look at it.
Plug Your Haters, Jay Bear.
Is that who wrote that?
Did you write that one? Okay, let's stop showing my inaccuracy on knowing authors on things. Okay.
As an example of a talk trigger, I bought some beanbag chairs for my office because that's what you are obligated to do when you're in marketing. And they came in an enormous cardboard box because they're big. And on the outside of the cardboard box was all these just like random cut lines that you're like, what are these? Just like perforated like dot lines or whatever. And then on the bottom of the box, it's like, here's instructions for how to turn your box into a cardboard castle. And like they took their packaging and turned it into a fairly large cardboard castle that you could cut out and play with a door and a shield and windows and like all this stuff. And I mean, it took no more effort than a graphic designer's time. They had to print stuff on the outside of the box anyway.
That was when you were an owner, right?
And they turned their packaging into something that was worthy.
I remember that.
When it came up, I cut it, I put it all over social media, I've posted it everywhere. I posted it there's a Talk Triggers Facebook group, and I posted it in there, and everyone was like, yeah, that's genius, that's like a great talk trigger. It's stuff like that. That's like, how would you get people talking about what you do without it being about spending a whole bunch of money? That was the one. So that's the book recommendations of those two. The one I prepared was to say, write down like just one objective. Like you said, people only have a plan of what they're trying to achieve. So what is the objective? And I mean, just in plain English, what are you trying to achieve? Like, I want more people to know about my business. That's your objective. I don't mean like a specific number. I'm just talking about what's your objective. I want more people to know about my business. And then set your key priority this quarter for the quarter. What's your key priority to make that happen? Okay, I am going to I'm going to start blogging once a month on my website and sharing those blogs to my social media. That's a priority I will do over this quarter. I am going to SEO one page of my website once a month. I'm going to learn how to run Google search ads. Like whatever, just set a marketing priority for the quarter. It has to be written down. You need to put it on paper. It needs to be visible because you're going to get stuck in the day-to-day hamster wheel of running your business. So put it down somewhere, and then you have to pick one way to measure whether you've accomplished anything. So what's the thing at the end that I'm hoping to achieve? I want 600 unique people a month to land on my website by the end of that quarter, or on a monthly basis by the end of that quarter, or whatever. And then I recommend setting like 4 targets. So that 600 could be like, yep, that's my green, like good job. Yellow is like, oh, we only got 400. That's not so great. And red's like, we got 200. That's awful because we started the quarter with 300. What happened? And then have your like stretch target of like, what if we got 1,000? Like, wouldn't that be cool? And so set the stretch target and set it ambitious enough that you're probably going to miss it a lot of quarters. Because if you hit it every time, you're not setting good enough stretch goals. So like you say, we live scaling up. This comes out of like OKR tech speak, like objectives and key results. Yeah, so write down an objective, set some priorities for the quarter, find a way to measure it, and set yourself like 4 different scores for like horrible, yeah, that was okay, did a good job, and like, wow, that was amazing. That's it.
Awesome. I should have read yours before I put mine, but I was like, just create strategic objectives. Like if that's all you do for a marketing plan, just pick like what 1, 2, or 3 things do you want to achieve through your marketing? Because once you have those written down and you know, like, well, we need to sell more, like we need to hit the sales target. Well, we need to convert more. Like we have 100 people a day in here and 20 of them buy. That's horrible. We need to increase our conversion. And we want to increase online sales to 50,000 a month. Once you know that, then you can make the plan, right? But I find so many people are just marketing to market, or like posting on social to post. And it's like, especially with Facebook and Instagram, and I've found like Google Business, posting on Google Business has been like so much more effective for us than the other social media. So it's like, why are you doing that? You know, and have a monthly marketing report so you actually measure against the objectives. Like, is it happening? Are you moving towards it? Because yeah, I think just too many people, especially people with unclear roles, are just doing what they can when they can, and it's like playing hockey without a net.
Yeah, because they heard from a best practice blog, or someone was like, this is what you should do in marketing, or just through the
or my buddy does this. My buddy does Facebook ads.
Yeah,
and throw $1,000 at it.
It's
like,
not
what's the goal?
tailored to your business. It's just general. So that's how you end up with like property maintenance companies spending their entire marketing budget on Facebook and Instagram organic content. Like, I have a building that needs property maintenance. Why would I follow a property maintenance company on Facebook? Like, spend your money somewhere else.
Yeah, and when you were talking about growing brand earlier, I was like thinking, I hope it's personal brand, because I'm pretty sure the last statistic I read was like 85% of people express zero interest in following a brand or a company on social media. They want to follow a person.
Yeah.
I think I got to take the word brand out of that. I believe it was 85% of people said they have no interest in following a company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, as always, we learned a lot. Thank you so much for coming back once in a while. Your creepy dark background there.
I know, it's very dramatic lighting. I feel like I'm being interrogated by the CIA.
Look, you look like that. Look at this. Bloom Diggity did that.
That's beautiful. That's like a wall hanging floral
like, yeah, they're like permanent flowers. They're like treated. And my partner always gets his flowy hair in this, and I'm like, get away from that. It's A gift from Chelsea. It's so nice. But yeah, it's amazing, hey?
That's cool. That's really cool.
It's covering my electrical fuse box thing, so that's why it's in a weird place.
Yeah, that's what art is for, is to cover holes in the wall and outlets and fuse boxes.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here. Do you want to tell people where they can find you? Obviously.
Sure. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn, so follow me on LinkedIn, Lane Anderson. Twitter's Lane_Anderson, and Instagram is the real Lane Anderson. And I just got a new phone this week, so I'm trying to be more social. I'm trying to like use it. I'm like, this has got an even better camera, so I'm like trying to put more stories up and do stuff so people know what we're up to.
We'll be watching.
I'm awful at doing my own social. I post to Instagram like once every 2 weeks.
You know what? Your stuff is actually interesting. I always wonder when you're like, you have to post about your business. Like, you can't just post about your dogs, which, sorry, I can't help it. But it's like, I'm like, sometimes posting about my business doesn't seem like interesting to people, but you're good at that. So thanks for always being.
LinkedIn's like almost every day and sometimes twice a day. So if you're
LinkedIn's great. I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Except for like all the sales messages that you're just like, archive.
Yeah, delete.
Yeah. Okay, have a great night. Say hi to your family.